Alright, so the season 3 finale of The Flash aired a while ago, and like I said before in some of my other Flash videos, reactions were kind of mixed. I mean, some people loved it, some people hated it, you know, the usual. But even if you're one of those people who didn't really like how The Flash wrapped things up in season 3, you gotta admit that it left the door open for some pretty interesting stories to take place. I mean, the first episode of the next season is titled The Flash Reborn, for fuck's sakes. I mean, it sounds a lot like The Flash Rebirth, and it makes you think like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. But then you realize that it also means that Barry's probably gonna come back from the Speed Force in that first episode or something, and then you get all pissed off again. I mean, there have been some photos featuring Grant Gustin hanging around Vancouver, where they shoot the show, and sporting a decent amount of facial hair like he's been trapped somewhere for a while. So it definitely looks like Barry's coming back sooner than everybody's expecting. But that having been said, that reference to the Flash being reborn in the title could mean something completely different. Like maybe it's referring to the Flash title passing down to the team's younger speedster, Wally West. Take a look at these leaked out set photos. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of interpretation needed here, right? Like that's very clearly Wally West in the traditional Flash costume. And I know some people are going to be like, well, how do you know that's him? And I'm just like, are you serious? Definitely doesn't look like Grant Gustin in there. I think we can all agree on that. Plus, security was apparently following this guy around the entire time, so it's hard to imagine anybody but Wally's in that suit. Now, after seeing these pictures, at first I thought, like I said before, this was our first look at Wally taking over the Flash mantle for Barry, kind of like how comic book Wally took over after Barry disappeared in the Crisis on Infinite Earth story. I mean, even Wally's actor, Keenan Lonsdale, kind of said something that fit with that idea when he talked with NKD magazine, stating, "We see Wally with a lot of weight on his shoulders. Everyone has gone through an emotional roller coaster by the end of the season," meaning season 3, and it's not a clean, happy ending. This kind of fits with the Crisis storyline because if you remember the post-Crisis Wally West stories, initially he was slower than Barry, he was hurt, upset, he didn't think he could really fill Barry's shoes as the Flash, and all of that kind of created these mental blocks that prevented him from really achieving his full potential and making the role his own. And based off of what we're seeing and hearing so far, I'm thinking this is going to be the case when season 4 starts up. Like maybe Wally's been trying to patrol Central City on his own as Kid Flash, given that more leaked out photos that came out earlier show Wally still wearing his Kid Flash suit, and over the course of the first episode, we see him slowly start to move past Barry's disappearance and grow into his role as the new Flash, complete with him wearing the traditional red suit like in these leaked out photos. That having been said, there's definitely more going on here than we've seen so far. I mean, look at what Keenan said to Newsweek about a month ago after he was asked about his character inheriting the Flash mantle. It's not something that's on my radar. I feel as though there's so much story to tell and Wally has so much growing to do, I'd like to see that story continue. That's what I think is important. We need to see how these characters realistically get to where they are headed for. So what's the deal here? Was he just trying to cover his own ass and keep something like these pictures from leaking out? Honestly, no, I don't think he's making anything up. I mean, we already knew Barry was going to end up coming back since, you know, he's the main character of the show. And on top of that, we also have a couple other things like Candace Patton, who plays Iris West, saying that Team Flash was going to try to break Barry out of the Speed Force, or the Comic-Con synopsis for season 4 that says, running up against an evil time remnant version of yourself is something no one should ever have to do. But that's exactly what faced Barry Allen, aka the Flash, as he fought to save the life of fiancée Iris West from the god of speed known as Savitar. Barry's victory was short-lived, however, as an unbalanced Speed Force began to wreak havoc on Central City, forcing Barry to sacrifice himself for the greater good. With the fastest man alive now trapped inside an extra-dimensional energy and unknown dangers lurking in the shadows, it will be up to Team Flash to free Barry from his own personal hell. So with all that in mind, I think it's pretty easy to see that Wally couldn't really inherit the role of the Flash, or at least not for that long. In that case, I'm wondering if Wally's just going to take over for Barry temporarily, like to boost Central City's morale so they still think the Flash is out and about, or because of what I said earlier, like he's growing as a speedster and he eventually decides to put on the Flash costume because he wants to be able to prove that he can move past his mistakes and be a speedster without Barry there to pick him back up. Then again, there is also the idea that Barry himself could encourage Wally to take on the Flash mantle until he gets out of the Speed Force. I mean, honestly, there are a ton of ways Barry could come back to the show without actually being on the show. Like maybe Cisco could vibe into the Speed Force and see him occasionally but won't be able to pull him out, or maybe Barry could pull a Savitar and appear as a Speed Force entity once in a while. I mean, he doesn't really need the Philosopher's Stone to do it, since Savitar, his future time remnant self, was able to keep popping back up in the real world even after Team Flash tossed the stone into the Speed Force. I mean, all he really needed it for was to be able to get out of the prison, not really to show up as an entity in the real world. So all in all, that's what I'm thinking we're seeing with these leaked photos. Wally's going to be working on his personal issues with Barry being gone, and he'll take on the Flash identity by the end of the first episode, probably because Barry encourages the idea when he shows back up while stuck in the Speed Force. But anyways, guys, that's my take on these new photos for season 4 of The Flash, and my theory on how Barry could come back to the show while not necessarily taking the Flash title from Wally in the first episode. If you like this video and you agreed with anything I've said, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. And if you have your own theories you want to throw out there, go ahead and let me know those in the comments too. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to click that like button, maybe leave me a comment while you're at it, and go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out any of my social media pages. I've got a Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. All those links are going to be in the description below. And I've also got my last video right there in the middle of your screen. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and click it, check it out. Alright, and I will see you all next time.